Hello, everybody. Good afternoon from St. Petersburg, Russia. My name is Oleg Krenitsky, and I work for the Testing Language Center at St. Petersburg State University. And today it's our third webinar for those who are planning to take an exam at B1 level. Can you hear us clearly? Just say yes in the chat box. Thank you very much. That's been good. And let's focus first for those who hasn't been participating in our two seminars for A1 and A2 levels. I'll remind you about some historical moments about our center and the university. So, as you might know, St. Petersburg State University was founded in 1724 by Peter I, the great Russian emperor. And it's the oldest university of Russia and one of the country's leading universities. You might also know that more than 30,000 students and 12,000 academic staff and almost 70 years of teaching Russian as a foreign language, we have such an experience. And the Language Testing Center at the university was founded on the 22nd of August 1997, and we have Russian language testing centers in Greece, Germany, Turkey, Serbia, South Korea, China, the Czech Republic, Norway, Great Britain, Italy, Poland, Argentina, Brazil, Iceland, and in other countries. Actually, we have 80 testing centers abroad. We are also a partner of Association of Language Testers of Europe, ALTE, and we issue internationally recognized state certificate for those who successfully pass test of Russian as a foreign language at our center. Well, that's all about history. And again, take a look at the example of official state certificate issued after you successfully passed examinations. Well, and you might know that you're also given a portfolio with all points and percentage you've got for each subtest. And today we are focusing on the first level. It's called Test of Russian as a Foreign Language 1. Well, you friends, you shouldn't be confused. Yeah, actually it's the third level, yeah, because there are 6 levels according to Common European Framework of Reference. But we call it like this because it's first certified level and because of some sort of tradition. Maybe later we'll change the names. And you know that all these levels correspond with the framework of a European framework of reference. Let's look at B1 level brief description. Some academicians and teachers call it the threshold level. Well, I'd better say it's you are just at the start of being an independent user of Russian language. You see, the lexical minimum at this stage is about 2,300 words, and the course takes about 160 to 180 hours from A2 level. So as you can see, it's quite a long course. Uh, I'll give you an example. If you have only one, two academical hour class a week, it'll take you mm, about 2 years to finish this course. Um, I'm not recommending you to do this. It's better to do this course intensively, and a year um, would be a good time for this course, I think. So we don't think that people who attend courses, either at university or private courses at different institutions of additional education, can do this test if they only have studied for 2 months or 3 months or even 4, 5, 6 months. So don't waste your money. Well, a good idea is to study intensively for at least 6, 7, or 8 months to do this test. And you can see this test is very important. Probably that's why we call it uh, TERCAI 1, because it's necessary if you apply uh, for universities or any institutions of higher education in Russia. And for example, at St. Petersburg State University, it's absolutely necessary if you go to this university. Well, at some other institutions, it's only desirable, but I think in 1 or 2 years' time, it will be necessary for all institutions of higher education when they, well, when they have examinations for students to enter these institutions. And let's focus on some general characteristics of B1 level. You see, it covers main areas of communication. And the student has a sufficient grammar and vocabulary to successfully communicate with native speakers, even though making some minor or major mistakes. And you can communicate everyday routines to people who listen to you in social, cultural, everyday classroom, working, and official areas of communication. And if you remember, uh, for A2 level, uh, an official area or area of official language or style uh, wasn't required. So with each level, we add communication areas which can be or maybe or should be interesting for you. All right, let's move to another chart. Well, and I'm not going to read all this self-assessment scales criteria. If you are interested, and I think it's a good idea to read them, at least to think about them, you should go to Common European Framework of Reference official site, and you can find there all this information at these rubrics, SIFA self-assessment scale and speaking skills assessment. Good. Now let's focus on the test format. So as usual, it contains 4 subtests. which tests various abilities in grammar and vocabulary, reading, listening, speaking, and writing. And the pass score is equal or more 66% for each test. And if you have only 60% for one test, we consider that the whole test is satisfactory and you have passed the test. But if you have failed one or two papers, it's possible for you to retake one or two subtests. If you fail more than two subtests, so you should retake the whole test, including 5 subtests. I think it's clear. Now let's focus on each paper or subtest. First, it's grammar and vocabulary. And you see it lasts for 60 minutes, has 4 sections, and contains 165 tasks. And as you might know, this is the largest grammar and vocabulary subtest in the whole line of Russian as a foreign language tests. Well, and in this test, we're focusing as usual on vocabulary, noun, adjective, and pronoun cases, verbs of motion with prefixes, verb system, which is new at this level. It's about verb aspect, very difficult area of Russian grammar, and various participle constructions. Some of them they call gerund constructions in English, but we don't have such a category in the Russian grammar. And finally, we're focusing on checking syntax, simple and complex sentences. Let's look at the tasks in more detail. So please, students, I'd like you to be prepared to do some very simple tasks from the open test. And look at it. The first blocks has 25 tasks, which mainly focus on vocabulary. Let's do the first task. Look at it. Бабушка не пьет очень, and there are 3 options. А сильный, Б крепкий, В твердый. Can you do this? Thank you. You're all very good. Great. The correct answer is B. Крепкий чай. Thank you. Next, let's focus on the second block. These are tasks from 26 to 77. Cases and prepositions. Я раньше никогда не встречал. Виктор рассказывал. So, I need 2 answers, please. Which answers are correct? Okay, some people are right, like Marcone Manuela. Thank you. So the correct answers are: Я раньше никогда не встречал этого человека. It's G. And the second correct answer is V. Виктор рассказывал об этом человеке. So that there are two correct answers, G and V. So please correct it and think about your mistakes, why you have made them, well, what was the reason for your mistakes, and so on. You know that in grammar, it's very important to know verb and noun combinations with pronoun and adjective, of course. You might know that the verb uh, requires a specific case. Yeah? For example, встречать кого? Рассказывать о ком? That's important when you study Russian language. Cases, verbs, and coordination between them. All right, we move on. And now, yeah, the third block of the test, their tasks from 78 to 129. This section focuses on verbs, verb system, infinitive constructions, verbal aspects, verbs of motion with prefixes, and probably some other things. So you know this area is very confusing for foreign students. And let's try to do this, yeah? Я должен, yes, those who has answered are, привести, are right. Thank you very much. You're great students. And you see, the fourth block, tasks from 130 to 165, this section focuses on syntax, simple and complex sentences. Please do this. Yeah. Б is correct. Вечером позвонили друзья, с которыми мы должны встретиться. Yeah, very good. And вечером позвонили друзья, которым мы купили подарок. That's very good. Correct. So Б and are correct answers. So, as I can see, you're all excellent students, and you can be aware, yeah, that how confusing it can be, all these relative pronouns with different cases and so on in Russian grammar. If you can handle it, so you are great, I must say. Let's go on. Some delay. And now let's focus on reading paper or reading subtest. It lasts for 50 minutes. It has 3 parts and contains 20 tasks. In general, the test focuses on description, narration, reporting or retelling, and reporting, yeah, really, and some elements of reasoning. So, and the first text, you see, contains 200 to 250 words, so quite big. The second text contains 150 to 200 words. And finally, text 3 has 500 to 550 words. That's huge, actually. And you see on the chart, Uh, there are 7% of unknown words in the texts. But you shouldn't be afraid of this. That's quite normal. Uh, you just skip unknown words if they're not necessary for understanding, or uh, you can guess the meaning actually if you use the wider context in which these words are used. So the texts are articles about interesting facts about famous people and historical places. So what kind of tips can we give you? Again, as we did at A2 level, first you read the tasks and search for the key words. Then you scan the text, keeping in mind the key words, and do the tasks. All right, next. And let's do the example of reading subtest together. Look at this very short extract from the test, from the open test. It's about Leonardo da Vinci. Read it, please, quickly, and try to do it according to the tips I've given you recently. So first you read the question, the answers, sorry, 1 hour and a half, 4 hours, 7 hours, and then you search for the information in the test, and you can do it very easily. So, mhm. So how long uh, do they think Leonardo da Vinci slept every day? 1.5 hours, 4 hours, or 7 hours? You shouldn't guess. Yeah, it's easy to find this information in the text. Yeah, it's only 1.5 hours. If you have this answer, you're all perfect. So, and you see, it's not very difficult. Yeah, even though you can find, if you read this text in detail, you might come across a lot of or quite a few words you don't know, but it doesn't impede your understanding of the text. That's important for you to understand. Next. Yeah, this slide shows the correct answer. And we move on to listening paper, listening subtest. You see, it lasts for 35 minutes, has 6 parts, quite a long test, quite a big test, and contains 30 tasks. In this test, you will listen to monologues of different lengths, like, for example, a letter fragment, to biographies, different kinds of excursions, I mean tours about the city or the country, museums and so on, some sort of media programs, etc. And you have to search for specific information in these tasks. And you'll also listen to some dialects. Mhm. And your task is to search for specific information. And you also have to identify the participants' intentions in the conversations. That's very important. So you see, in this paper, in the listening subtest, we're focusing on specific information, how you understand information in detail. And some useful information for you. And the monologues are about 800 to 900 words. That's quite long monologues. Dialects usually contain from 10 to 12 lines. That's quite a lot too. And the number of unknown words in the test or in the uh, audio texts are about 3%. Not many, actually. You might remember that in the reading texts, the percentage of unknown words is about 5-7. And what is different if you compare B1 listening test to A2 or A1 listening tests? As you might remember, the texts in those tests were heard twice, but here all the text to be heard once only. Please keep it in, bear it in mind. And let's look at the tips for doing this test. Look, you will be given about 3 to 4 minutes to look through the tasks before listening. And that's quite important. Don't miss the stage, yeah? Don't neglect it. That's very, very important because it can help you to predict the meaning of what is it going to be talked about in the tasks. And pay special attention to the numbers, people's names, geographical names, etc. It's specific information, yeah, you are asked to search for in the tasks. That's what this test is focusing on. And please don't forget to take notes on a sheet of paper or on the task papers while you are listening. You can circle, underline, do whatever you want. It just should help you. That's it. And it's not important. If you write on the task sheets or on separate sheets of paper, after test, we just destroy all of them. So you can do whatever you want. Yeah. The only important thing, it should help you to do the test, to pass the test successfully. And now we'll do some practice. Anton Sergeyevich, can you help us? Anton? And now you're going to listen to a message which Anton has sent to Max on WhatsApp. And later, so you listen, and later you'll do 2 tasks. Anton Sergeyevich, please, can you start reading out?
Макс, привет! Ты помнишь, что вечером мы идем в гости к Маше? Она ждет нас в 19 часов. Предлагаю в 18:40 встретиться у метро Невский проспект. Оттуда до Машиного дома минут 15 пешком. Ты не можешь купить торт? Какой-нибудь большой и вкусный торт. Я сегодня в университете до 18:00. У меня не будет времени зайти в магазин. Все, мне пора. Начинается лекция. Пока.
Thank you, Anton. Even though I didn't listen to you today, I don't know why, but you might know, students, you must know that Anton is our center's voice on all listening tests audio material. So you appreciate him. And what are your answers? Let's look at it. Yeah, check them, please. So in task 1, Anton and Max, they meet at 6:40. So the correct answer is B. And in task 2, Anton asks Moss to buy some sort of pastry or a torte, a cake, because, which is correct? A, because he will be busy. So two correct answers, one B, two A. Again, analyze what you have done correctly, what you haven't done, and so on, mm, uh, just to make sure that when you take a real test, you wouldn't make these mistakes. Okay, we move on to another slide. And I've shown you this several times during my first and second webinar, but you should be aware of this, how to fill out the working matrix, which is given to you at the beginning of the test and is taken at the end of the test. Uh, you should put your family name, the name of your country, and the date when you take your examination. And you see, you choose the correct answer and circle it like this, but later, if you changed your mind, you can correct your choice like this. You cross out the previous answer and you circle the new answer. That must be clear. Next. Now we move on to uh, productive papers, subtests. The first one comes writing. That is very, very important. What is very different from A2 and A1 tests? It's the thing that you have deal with quite a long, quite big texts to read, and then after that to retell those texts or to write something about on the basis of reading this text. So working with a text is very important at this stage. Okay, writing subtest, it lasts for 60 minutes and it has two tasks. And you see, you can use a bilingual dictionary doing this test. And so what are the tasks in nature? First, in task 1, you have one text to read and then to report or reproduce or retell this text based on 4 or 5 questions. Later we'll take a look here at specific tests and questions. And what can be text types in this exercise, in this task? There are namely famous people's biographies, stories about interesting places and facts, and articles based on sociological surveys, and so on. And the text length is usually from 600 to 700 words, and the number of unword words is about 5%. Not much, actually. And in task 2, you will be given No, the task is to write an informal letter based on a plan suggested or given. So you will be given a plan and you have to write an informal letter. And look, this is important. The volume, the length of your letter should contain 20 phrases or more, but not less. All right. And you see there some tips. Don't write a draft. Save your time. We have talked about that already. And if you need to correct a mistake, just cross it out. That's not a big problem. Thank you. Later, we'll talk in more detail about recommendations and tips, but these are quite good and natural tips for uh, doing this subtest. And now let's have some practice. So you see, it's task one example, and you must remember you will be given one big text to read, and then you have to reproduce the text in written form based on 4 or 5 questions. Here are 4 questions. Try to read it quickly. And you see these 4 questions. What do people think of the internet? How they use it? What opinions do you agree with? And what is your own opinion, uh, on these questions? So you should write a sort of a story about this. So what do you think? Is it a difficult task for you, students? All right. Next. And in this subtest, task 2, you have to write a letter, an informal letter, and it should be 20 or more, it should contain 20 or more phrases. And in the letter, you have to uh, report the following information when, now it's so easy, Ali Ahmed, teşekkür ederim. You've never been to Russia, but you have decided to go to this country. Write a letter to a friend and tell about this. So, and you should write about all these content points which are given in the plan. When you're going to go there, why have you have decided to go to Russia, who you're going to go with, which cities or which places you're going to see, what do you know about Russia, what kind of transport you're planning to travel, and where you're going to stay, hotels and so on. How does it look for you, students, candidates? I think it's much. Mhm. I think it's much easier than task 1, but it's still challenging, as you might see. Okay, we move on to speaking subtest. It lasts for 25 minutes, contains 4 parts and 12 tasks. You can see you are allowed to use a bilingual dictionary for the tasks 3 and 4, which you will be allotted some time to prepare. And let's focus on the tasks. In task 1, you answer the questions. You answer the questions, and there are 5 tasks actually. In task 2, you start a dialogue. There are 5 tasks. In task 3, you report or retell the text and answer 2 questions after the text. And in task 4, you produce a monologue. The volume is 20 or more phrases. Let's take a quick look at the tasks. Again, in task 1, you are asked to take part in a conversation and answer the questions or remarks. For example, скажите, пожалуйста, как лучше добраться до аэропорта? And sometimes this question is a bit confusing for students because they don't know, they don't know. They can't make a decision at the moment of speaking which point from. So, but you can choose whichever actually from the place where you are taking exams, from other places, any other places. Actually, what is important that your answer is logical and comprehensible and can be easily understood. And in task 2, the examiner gives you the situation description, different situations descriptions, and you start a conversations. The example, let's look at the example. Вы хотите купить новый ноутбук и пришли в магазин. Поговорите с продавцом, начните диалог. Вот такое задание. И, например, and for instance, task 4, you have to produce a monologue according to the question plan. Just imagine that you have opened a restaurant, tell your friends about it, and you see there's a question plan. Where is your restaurant? What kind of meals do they cook there? What kind of atmosphere? What kind of design you offer to your guests? If there's a live music, what kind of prices in your restaurant, and so on. And let's now, yeah, first we'll focus on task 3 because it's the most difficult in this text, and then we'll do some practice. And in task 3, we check your text retelling skills. Well, I can see an interesting question. How are short answers evaluated? We consider short answers a bit incomplete. And you see, you are Andrei Vitaly, you must be a Russian-speaking person. So if, but this test is for foreign-speaking persons. So if it gives a Russian-speaking person, it's okay, I think. But we consider it incomplete, and it should be in one or two phrases, actually. Even though this short answer sounds quite natural in Russian. But we check the ability in foreign students to develop a conversation usually. That's very important. Your ability to develop a conversation. Okay, let's go back to task 3. We check your retelling skills in this text or reporting skills. You will be offered a story, and the objectives are: you first read the story, summarize the information using text compression techniques, then you tell the plot of the story, and after the text you are necessary to answer 2 or 3 questions. And you see the tips given. You read the story and highlight the most important information. You ask yourself what details you need. You don't need all the details in this text because the text is 500 words. Yeah, it's huge actually. And you use paragraphs to make a plan of the text. And you shouldn't try to remember all the texts, even though some Chinese students, well, often do this, but uh, it's a bit difficult, and for any person, yeah, and you shouldn't do this. You actually should follow some techniques you have been uh, you have been taught in the group by a teacher or a self-study course and so on. And you write important ideas and words on a sheet of paper and use it while retelling the story. You should remember that you can't have the original text in front of you when you take examinations. It's not allowed. But you can take with you a sheet of paper. You've written some ideas, words, details, maybe a plan, and so on. Whatever you have written on your paper, if it can help you, you can use it. But again, you can't read anything out of this paper. Okay. If it's clear, so Vitaly, again, how will be evaluated these answers? Yeah, a short answer. Uh, well, I think it will be taken one point for incompleteness. But uh, if it'll be answered in this way, very quickly, in a natural way, so it's okay. It's all right. Another. Now let's do some practice. Let's do some practice. Look at these pictures, and you see it's a fairy tale called The Little Red Riding Hood. You might all you must all know this story, yeah. And look at the pictures, and if you don't remember the story, I can tell you this in well, in general format, but we're lacking of time, and I better ask you this question, and you please answer. What information do we need to tell about the heroine of The Little Red Riding Hood? Let's focus on one. She wears a red riding hood. Is it important detail or not? Say it please in the chat. Yes, you are right. I think it's important. Another, she's blonde and has white shoes. Is this important? Should you include it in your uh, reported story? No. You're great, guys. And next three, she has some food in her basket. Is it important? Yes, very good. Very good. You are very good. Now, four, she has a pie and a jar of cream in her basket. What do you think about this? No, absolutely, absolutely. Now, five, she went to visit her granny. What about this? Yes, great, very good. Six, she was walking through the wood, picking flowers and singing a song. You say no? Well, yeah, it's not so very important. Yeah, it could be relevant. Yeah, it's a good answer. So you decide. Yeah, it's actually up to you to decide which detail to consider more important or less important. You just shouldn't include in your text all details, all unimportant details. Exactly. Maybe I need to stretch the speaking part. Exactly, Marketa Pechkova, you are right. So for some, well, for some purpose, maybe you need it. So why not to take this not very important detail? It's up to you what to choose. And now seven, she came up to the granny's house and knocked on the door. What about this? Yes, you are right. You're great. And finally, eight, she knocked on the old wooden door slightly three times. What about eight? No, no. Yeah, no, no. That's not important, not necessary. But you see, friends, this is only uh, the beginning. Yeah, so you can be asked to describe the Little Red Riding Hood, to describe this girl. So that's the only beginning. And so it's very important to make distinction between important and not very important details to make your story. What else is important? Yeah, that's what we always tell our candidates or students, that you should write it in your language. I mean, in your Russian language. Don't try to copy. Uh, well, this story is not very difficult. I mean, the story of the Little Riding Hood, but you'll be given much more difficult stories, and you you'll have to skip a lot of unimportant information mm, to make the structure of your story clear and easy for you. That's important. And yeah, how much time will be given for this task? Uh, quite a lot of time. Quite a lot of time. Uh, 15 minutes actually for reading and planning your retelling strategies, and maybe, well, writing something on your list, kind of a plan, or some keywords, necessary words, and so on. So you'll be given 15 minutes to prepare this task. Yes, Edward, three times could be important if that's a coded knock on the door, but I don't remember if it was a coded door, a coded knock on the door in the real story. Was it? If it was, it's important, of course. but it wasn't, I think. Okay, and again, let's look at some more theoretical things about assessment criteria for productive skills. Uh, Again, yeah, look, your production, spoken production or written production, shall be adequate to communicative task you are given. It must comply with the intention required. And another very important thing, you well, the compliance with the topic required. No diversions of the topic are allowed when presenting spoken or written product. And if you do this, you are quite severely punished here. Uh, you are taking out 5 or even 10 points sometimes, and that's quite a lot of points. And you see, again, we have talked about that in at A2 webinar, compliance with the specified volume of presentation. Again, it's very important. We've just been talking about this. For example, you are to prepare well, you you are you are to prepare a topic how you spend your free time. Well, it's easy, of course, yeah, but your story must be 10 phrases long or more, not less. And we move on. Next, all contact points, that's important, please, yeah, take into account this. Completeness of information presentation, well, it's a bit awkward, but I'll explain to you. It means that all contact points given in the task must be somehow presented in your spoken or written product. That's very important. Next, accuracy when presenting text information both in writing and speaking subtest. That's very important too, and you must be very accurate with specific information important in the text. Yeah, and normally you are taking out 5 points for being incomplete or inaccurate with your speaking or written production. And what's new in at this level, uh, in your writing subtest, you are taken for 3 or more copied phrases, you are taking out 3 points. So don't do this. Yeah, literal copying of the text is punished with 3 points. Yeah, Francesco will upload this webinar on the university website. Don't worry. Well, and we've been talking about it already, and at seminars at A1 and A2 levels. Look again, yeah. Of course, you make a lot of mistakes, or quite a lot of mistakes, when you take these examinations, and you might know that there are communicatively significant errors, insignificant errors, and we've been talking about this. And here is added another criteria for your mistakes. Well, uh, when you take sentences together. So actually, it's about syntax mistakes. It's all about cohesion and coherence. And now I want you to help me. What do you think? Which type of mistakes can we refer these mistakes? Can you refer these mistakes? The first one. Когда ты будешь приехать к нам, у нас будет вкусный обед. What do you think? What kind of mistake it is? Is it significant, insignificant, or is it cover the area of cohesion and coherence? Please don't leave us. Stay with us. What do you think, guys? What do you think? Insignificant, Patrick. That's very good. And the second one. Я часто слушаю концерты, потому что мне нравится кулитуля. What do you think about this? Is it significant or insignificant? Significant, you think. Yeah, you are right. 3. Я хотел бы узнать, какие документы нужны, потому что первый раз еду туда. What do you think about that? What kind of mistake it is? Significant. No. Oh, maybe it's about kulitula. Yeah, it's insignificant and it's well, kind of mistake. We only take out 1.0 or 1.5 or sorry, 0.5 points we take out for this kind of mistakes. Well, it just not correct writing. That's it. No problem with this. Now 4. Так как я была во многих городах, мне больше всего понравилась Москва. What do you think about this mistake? Yeah, Olivia, you're right. You're correct. It's about cohesion and coherence. And 5. And you must know that this kind of mistakes, cohesion coherence mistakes, we take out 2 points, and that's quite a lot. And you might remember that communicatively significant error we take out 2 points to, and for insignificant error 0.5 points. And finally, sentence 5, please take a look at it. Я хочу учиться здесь. Это очень легендарный университет. Is it significant, insignificant? Patrick, you are right. My throat today is not working very good. Yeah, it's definitely insignificant. Thank you. Thank you. Well, let's look at another chart. You might know that you can get extra points for what for? For comprehensive use of speech etiquette, like in the example, the teacher says, «Привет, почему ты такой грустный? Что-то случилось?» The student says, «Спасибо, что спрашиваешь. Все нормально, но немного устал в университете. А как твои дела?» So we consider this answer is it's quite good. It's just perfect, and we can you can get extra points for this for such an answer. And the second, independent language use. In the text it reads, женщина имеет право выбора, работать или просто заниматься домашним хозяйством. The student says, женщина может, it's a paraphrase, выбирать между тем, чтобы быть домохозяйкой или строить карьеру. It's just perfect, a perfect paraphrase of the sentence given to you, and you can get extra points for this. And of course, you are given extra points for intelligible individual pronunciation, correct word stress, and appropriate intonation. And the extent is important. If it's complete, uh, so, well, you are given more points for this. And you can make it up for with these extra points if you make a lot of mistakes in the test body. Now, again, some recommendations. They are general, but again, they're important to keep in mind when you do your test. Well, actually, nothing is new about grammar and vocabulary. You go over the task and correctly allocate the given time. And when you read, you first read questions or phrases, find and underline keywords, then scan the text, identify the topic of the text, find keywords, so a lot of work with keywords and identifying main and unimportant information. And what is important at this level is synonyms. So your teachers, well, your teachers must focus on this vocabulary work with synonyms, antonyms quite a lot. And then you answer the questions. And in listening section, well, actually, the recommendations are the same. First, you read answer options, then you listen to the text. And on your task sheets, you can mark supposedly correct answers. You can write or underline words heard, and only then you circle the correct option in the matrix or on the matrix. Yeah, and some tips for writing. What is very important, again and again, you write about all content topics required in the task. Don't miss any one of them because you will be punished very strictly. We take out 5 points from your written test. And again, don't write a complete draft. You only write a plan or incomplete or short, something short, because it's just a waste of time. And think of the register or of the style of your written product. It will be actually it will be more important at B2 level, but start thinking about this. It's quite important. It will be quite important in the future for you. And when speaking, again, avoid yes, no, I don't know, or short answers. Answer the questions with 1 or 2 phrases, better complete phrases. And again, it's no need to tell the truth. You just use your imagination. Well, it's not necessary always to talk about your own experience. Yeah, you can use all your experiences. Again, this advice, don't forget about the style. It's not, again, that important at this level, but it will be, definitely will be important and B2, C1 levels. So next, plan your monologue according to the given plan and highlight the information blocks in the text. Well, so under another important technical information, I'm not sure if you have participated in our previous webinar, so well, it's important to look at it on the day of, well, it's important to look at it when you are planning to take an example. On the day of the test, you should bring with you a passport or other ID with a photo, the receipt of payment for examination, 2 ball pens of blue color, a bilingual dictionary, paper-based only, and you must know that all electronic devices are forbidden during the test, and you are not allowed to take away examination papers of the classroom, and you are not allowed to copy from your friends and talk to other candidates. Actually, there are a lot more uh, uh, restrictions and rules you have to obey, and you'll be given this when you register for examinations. And you can use your dictionary during reading and writing and speaking subtests. Well, we've been talking about this a lot, but anyway, I think I should remind you about this. I think grammar and vocabulary, reading and listening, you can do self-studying using relevant test materials and course books. And writing and speaking, for writing and speaking, you'd better to prepare with a teacher. And well, you have actually, you need to know a lot of things before the test, but these are some important things. You should know your tactics on how to manage the time. All individuals have their own tactics, and you should read instructions for each subtest, or you should get familiar with the instruction for each subtest, and you should know how to complete the working matrices, but we've already talked about that. And finally, in the end of the webinar, and you can you can look at it in detail when you visit our language center site and download the seminar, and you see standards actually are the same and sample tests are the same for all webinars, but what is interesting that I think the course books, look at them. There are some good examples of course books for this level for self-study work and for work in a classroom. Look at them. There are quite a lot of good books, and I can recommend you Alive Russian Grammar by Betechtina. I think it's a very good textbook you can use when preparing for the tests. Yeah, it's for grammar practice. For writing and reading practice, we can recommend you these books. You can download them or buy them from the sites in Europe and in Russia. And finally, there's information how to connect us, the website information, email and telephone. Well, and that's all with my webinar for today. Thanks a lot for your attention, and if you appreciated it, I would be very glad. And well, I have 2 or 3 minutes to probably answer your questions. Thank you, Edward. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Yilmaz, Rehan, Ayberk. Thank you. Okay, if you haven't got any questions, thank you. We are finishing today's webinar, and you are invited to other webinars in Russian or in English in the future. Thanks a lot and goodbye.